Okay. My
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to Purposeful Pressure. I'm your host, Renee. Today's topic is going to be discipline your disappointments. We're going to marry this topic to the journey of becoming parents via adoption and through foster care. The guest of honor is going to be Nicole Johnson. So, Nicole, would you give the audience a quick elevator speech about yourself?
I will. So, hello everyone. My name is Nicole Johnson. I am currently a school counselor in Haywood County Schools and a parent of one, Sky. And if I had to talk about myself that quick, I'm just a person who loves people. I love being kind to people. I love making people smile. And that's kind of what powered my journey that I'm on with fostering and adoption. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's dive right into it because I am excited. Okay, so our first question is, what did your plan or vision look like as far as a family before God revealed to you his plan for you?
So growing up, I always wanted to graduate high school, go to college, get married at 22, 23, right out of college,
Yeah.
have a lot of kids with my husband, and be a teacher.
Uh-huh.
That was the plan I had laid out for myself. And so I knew I wanted to be a mother. I just thought that my path to doing that would be more of the traditional path, and obviously it's not. And so, but I'm still thankful for that. So that's what I thought I had envisioned for myself.
Uh-huh. So, what led you towards adoption?
As a teacher years ago, you know how you go to different fairs and you see a lot of different vendors. I ran into a table that talked about fostering. And because I had a natural love for children, even the children in my family, I was always taking care of somebody's child. And
Uh-huh.
so stopped at a table that talked about fostering, and I just kind of put it in my back pocket. I didn't think much of it. And so as the year kept going, I kept, seeing all these kids in need at my school.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally reached out to the Department of Children's Services just to see what it was about. And so I
Mm-hmm.
signed up for classes then. And then I always knew though, even before all of that, that even if I foster, even if it was just one child I could help,
Mm-hmm.
I knew God had at least one child for me to step into their life and be who they needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. At what point, or was there a point when you questioned God if adoption was really going to be part of what He planned for you?
During the process of the first class I was in Covington, I actually quit the class. I I quit. I headed to Covington. It's probably like the third or fourth meeting. It's only like 6 or 7 you have to go to. So I just on the way, I can see exactly where my car was on Covington Highway, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I know what I said, that God had one child for me, but I'm not doing it.
Hmm.
And so I decided I wasn't going back, and I didn't. But obviously, when you're doing something for God, He has a way of getting the message across to you when you need it. And
Right.
so, after I quit the first class, months later, um, I ended up finding a class in Haywood County where I
Hmm.
reside, and that's when I started back.
Okay.
A lot of months later. So I
Yeah.
actually had to start back over at the beginning of the
Oh.
classes.
Hmm.
That's how long it took me to do what God had already told me to do.
Hmm. So at that point, you just kind of accepted His plan, right?
I didn't have a choice. You when you're listening and you're seeking Him, you really you get pulled and you know
Hmm.
what you're supposed to be doing. And so that's exactly what happened. I knew what I needed to do, and it couldn't have aligned up more
any
perfectly
better.
than what it
Yeah.
did.
Uh-huh. I know your story all too well.
Yes.
So, what obstacles did you face during your foster to adoption process?
So my daughter, my daughter now came to me straight from the hospital.
Oh,
So she didn't have another family. That she wasn't removed from a home. So
oh,
she came to me 4 days old.
oh,
So during the fostering process, there came this family member out of the blue
mm-hmm,
that was getting her home looked at for possible placement.
right.
So there was like a 2 to 3 week period where I was literally and physically sick because I thought that she was gonna get the baby.
Mm-hmm,
And so that was hard to deal with when I look back. My grandma and I, we didn't know how to respond. So we
mm-hmm.
really didn't even talk about it. It was no conversation. We just kind of knew, okay, like we were even going so far as to say, okay, what clothes do we send with, or like which toys do we send? Like
Yeah.
we've done all these things, and now they're just gonna come. So that was tough.
Mm-hmm.
That was tough because the social workers can only tell you so much,
Right.
and without crossing those boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't I'm familiar with the family, but not on a level where we were discussing it outside of DCS and outside of court. And so it was just a touchy subject at the time.
Okay. Yes, I know that too well. They're only allowed to tell you so much, and then you're like, I need more. I've been
Yes,
here the whole time. Yeah.
I know that that's right.
So, what, if any, negative thoughts attacked your mind, and how did you redirect your mind back to what God told you?
Of course, it was a lot of negative. I had made up in my mind that once they took the baby, I wasn't going to have anything else to do with her. And I know that's not even like me to even cut a child off. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wrestled with that back and forth. Like, I'm just going to send her with what she came with. We're not doing this, blah, blah, blah. Even with even the visitations had become, um, they, it was a lot of tension in those.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, I had made myself, I tried to detach myself from the baby.
Because you
And
just didn't know.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, the fear of the unknown. And so there was a time where I just wanted to stop attaching to her
Mm-hmm.
and it was just kind of like, I kind of shut down for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to give myself a pep talk. You know, I had to go back to, I chose to foster. And in a lot of situations, fostering is not permanent.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't adopt the children that they foster. So I was trying to explain it to my grandmother, but at the same time, I was instilling it in myself as well,
Mm-hmm.
how to love and let go.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
But something just kept, there was always a small voice telling me,
Uh-huh.
just keep going.
Uh-huh.
Just keep going.
Uh-huh. So, a little bit not off the topic, but off our questions, one that I just thought of. At what point did you say in your heart, she's gonna be mine?
It was shortly after the period with the family member.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew that wasn't the best placement for her.
Okay.
And so I think the fear kind of settled a little bit when the caseworker called, and she said without saying that everything was gonna be okay. Although,
Yeah.
God had already promised me something,
Hmm.
and so I had to just trust God, honestly, because it was a physical and a mental battle that I was facing during those couple of weeks. Thankfully, it didn't last long.
Hmm.
I understand that some people fight longer than that.
Yes.
I
Yes.
know one family personally, they've adopted all their kids, but it took years.
Hmm.
And so I'm thankful for that. When I look back, I'm like, just a few weeks, I can do anything for a few weeks. But
Yes.
I just had to trust God when I couldn't see the finish line.
Yes.
And that's hard.
Uh-huh.
That's hard. But shortly after the scare, something just felt like it would be okay
Hmm.
after talking with the caseworker back and forth.
Yeah. And when
Yeah.
you look back, it's such a blessing because even when I share my story of adoption, people are just amazed at how fast, the what do you call it, the final adoption or the closing or
Hmm.
whatever it was. They're like, this doesn't even happen for at least, 2 years or something like that. But when you're in God's will and
That's
He put
right.
it together and you follow what He puts together, it will happen, just so quickly, to other people, but to you, it may feel like, oh God, you taking your time with this one. But with people who don't belong to him, sometimes it takes them forever to do,
Yes.
some things that they want to do. But let me tell you, just being a child of God, it definitely pays off.
Amen.
So, what else? While going through your journey, did your faith ever waver? Why or why not?
I had some you mean before adoption or just during the whole thing?
During the whole thing.
Um I've struggled a little, and it's been even recent with thinking about Sky's in preschool.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is Sky. She's in preschool. And I've had some moments, and I know it was the devil because it didn't last long. I was able to get out of it pretty quickly, but I've had some thoughts about what's gonna happen when we have our conversation about being adopted,
Mm-hmm.
or almost like I remember when I first got the call asking me if I would take in a 4-day-old baby.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question was, is it a drug baby?
Mm-hmm.
So I have heard horror stories. I've even been around a baby that was exposed to drugs
Mm-hmm.
during pregnancy and abused as an infant. So I've been around a child like that. She's grown
Mm-hmm.
now actually and doing well.
Yeah.
But I had some doubts about how what Sky dealt with um in her mother's womb. I've
Right.
had doubts about how that would come up later.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to really seek God on that, and just really tell myself, because I also co-teach 10 key classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been a blessing as well, talking with parents, people that want to be foster parents. And while I'm educating them, I'm also educating myself. A
Yes.
lot of times kids can go through things, and then the environment that they're in can make or break
Mm-hmm.
their situation.
Right.
And so that's when, that's been hard for me, because I don't want her to have developmental issues. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the parent that's gonna read the book that they give you at the health department, like front to back. What is she doing on this list? What is she not doing on this list? And so
Yes.
I also have kind of struggled developmentally with stuff, so much so, like, if it's something small, like when she was 6 weeks old, one of the milestones that's on that CDC chart was
Mm-hmm.
smiling.
Yes.
She wasn't smiling.
Mm-hmm.
It's right. It's like I was literally with the calendar calculating why she wasn't smiling at, like, the day that she turned 6 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
And so the therapist from um TEIS early intervention services was like, okay, this is just a scale. This is, it doesn't have to happen at this time as long as she does it before this. And then, like, a couple of days later, she starts smiling. So I'm hard on her when it comes to developmental things. And so
Understand.
I never want her to not reach what everybody else is doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been a little too hard on myself and her when it comes to that because developmentally she is where she's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to be ahead of it. Like, she's in pre-K 4 and I'm already trying to get her to decode words. And I do understand that's not developmentally appropriate, but I'm always like on to the next thing. I'm like, okay, you can spell your whole name. Now let's go to count by tens. Or so I'm just trying to stay ahead of that and
Yes.
also giving both of us grace because I did put her in school early. She is getting the services that she needs. She's no longer in need of early intervention services. In fact, they dismissed her at like 6 months old. So we are doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to stay one step ahead of it because
Yeah.
I don't want her to ever slip. And I think that probably will be true for me, even if it wasn't an adoption
Yeah.
story.
Uh,
So that's just me.
yeah, that's just who you are.
So
Yes. Okay, that is good. So was there a Bible verse? Did we just do that one? Or piece of personal advice that you leaned on or that helped you through the process from beginning to end?
trying to think if there was like, it wasn't a particular Bible verse, but one that just came to me is
Mhm.
what God has for me is for me.
Yes.
And I knew that he had already revealed to me that this baby was for me. And so
Hmm.
once I tapped into that and stopped doubting
Hmm.
and started trying to figure it out on my own, he took care of it.
Yeah. So there was no more worrying. It was just like
Right.
um almost like a peace that you can just have a just uh moment of relief saying, okay, God, you got it, and it is what it is, basically.
That's right.
Yep. So next, when you randomly look at your child, what just melts your heart about being a parent and just how God made it all come together? What melts your heart when she's over there playing and you just happen to look up and you're like, my baby? What is that that melts your heart?
We have this thing where we blow each other a kiss and she'll catch it and put it on her heart. And
Uh-huh.
so just recently she just started doing that. Like, I always blow her kisses if she's just playing. I'll say, Sky, and then I'll just blow her a kiss and she'll grab it. And then one day she did it and I was like, what are you doing? She said, I put it on my heart.
Uh-huh.
And so that is amazing to me because I know that she was made for me.
Hmm.
I just even from me quitting the class, joining another class months later, and to be done months before she was born, and for it to fall in line the way that it fell in line.
Hmm.
And even the day she was born, I was at a retreat.
Hmm.
Had no idea I was about to be a mother that
Yes.
following Tuesday. And so she always knows when to give me a hug. She always we're soulmates.
Yeah.
And she had to have been made just for me because
Uh-huh.
she acts just like me. And so I just know that was just her coming to me was provision from God. I know
Hmm.
that she was sent for me.
Yes. No doubt about it. Okay, next, what are some words of encouragement or advice you can share with someone who's interested in moving forward with adoption or foster care? What would you say to that person who says, you know what, after listening to your conversation, I want to look into it. I want to start it.
keep your eye on the end goal.
Mm.
One of the things we teach students with the 7 habits of highly effective people
Mm.
is begin with the end in mind.
Ooh, I like that.
Always keep that end goal in mind and don't let anything deter you from it.
Mm-hmm.
So even when the obstacles come or the birth parents are giving you trouble or visitations are wearing you out, stay focused on the child. Always remember that that child needs you, and it'll work out if it's in God's
Yes.
will. I believe it'll work out. So just I would tell someone just stay with it.
Stay with
Stay
it.
the course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, to sum up this conversation, how would you tie the topic, discipline your disappointments, into your story?
When it was when I thought Sky would be taken from me, I allowed that fear to take over everything. My thoughts, even my interactions with my friends, interactions even with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
When I allowed that fear to sneak in, I could just feel my me getting sick like in my
Yeah,
body.
like
And
physically
so
sick. Uh-huh.
physically sick, and I had to I had nowhere to turn to but God. I couldn't talk about it with my grandmother. I couldn't talk about it with my grandmother because she would get so emotional. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm having to be the person to keep everything together and deal with the hurt that I was feeling and continue to raise this child.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to give all of that over to God.
Yeah.
He can do more with it than I can anyway.
Right.
But I had to, if you're gonna pray, don't worry. And if you're gonna worry, don't pray.
Period.
So I had to stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, I would be sick
Yes.
today. 4 years later, 5 years later, I would probably, and I believe I just had a conversation with a coworker about anger and disappointments and all of these things. They can turn into cancer
Oh,
and
yeah.
all these other things in your body that we can't get rid of
Mm-hmm.
easy. And so I had to figure out when to let go
Mm-hmm.
and let God do it.
Right. Okay. That was beautiful. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you for this amazing conversation. I have enjoyed you, and hopefully you will come back and visit me on something else I may have in mind.
Absolutely.
Later
I would
down
be
the
glad
road.
to.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, everyone, and thank you for listening. Here's how you can watch Purposeful Pressure.